Morning, colleagues. My name is Mabel Rantla, and I'm the facilitator for today's webinar. Just to go through the house rules, first, we are going to have very little time to go through a whole lot of information that we need to share today, and to discuss also about the Thari Programme. For our attendees, please, there are 3 ways you will be able to participate. You can use your question and answer tab to type in all the questions that you need to ask, and we will do our best to answer all questions. And as I indicated, we may not be able to answer everybody's question, but we're going to do our best. Second, you can use the chat box to communicate in terms of what you need to share or inputs you need to make. And finally, you can just go on the audio system, having raised your hands, so that we can allow you to, or enable you to ask your questions to whichever panelist you choose to refer your question to. Having said that, I think it is important also to repeat that we have very little time. So when we ask questions, we go straight to the point. We will also have to start with Mabatu Maboya, the CEO for Cyril Ramaphosa Foundation, who will give us an overview on the Thari Programme and its purpose. Mabatu, can you please take over then and indicate to us what the purpose of the Thari Programme is, so that we all start on the same page. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us in this webinar. My name is Mabatu Maboya, and I'm the CEO of Cyril Ramaphosa Foundation. I'll be sharing a presentation that takes us through to explain the program, and I'm hoping that we would enjoy our day today. So the Thari Programme is a school-based pilot program that Cyril Ramaphosa Foundation, together with our doctor school, are implementing in 8 schools, in Botshabelo in the Free State, as well as one school in Diepsloot. The goal is to strengthen school communities so that we are creating a safe and an empowering environment that is free from violence and is academically effective. It's inclusive, it's gender sensitive, and promotes health and well-being for all. Why did we decide to do this program, this pilot program? First and foremost, we decided around 2015, 2016, based on our work in our schools that through our Doctor School Foundation and KST program, we work in over 400 schools. And through that, we ran research through our social welfare programs. And we've realized that there's high levels of prevalence of violence and social skills in our schools. Now, this has said to us that even if we improve the quality of education, but if we do not attend to the social challenges that the learners and their parents and the communities are facing, we may not be able to achieve a conducive environment for learning. So one of the parts of the rationale for this program is to enable us to address the prevalence of violence and social ills in schools. We would like to be able to attend to the effects of abuse and other vulnerabilities affecting children, and in particular their mothers, because we recognize the symbiotic relationship between a vulnerable mother, a vulnerable woman, puts effects to vulnerable children. And we would like to enable schools and educators to deal with the explicit and implicit violence in schools. Many of our educators are handling the social ills, the effects of the social ills that the learners in our schools experience. And they could be explicit issues such as rape, issues such as direct physical abuse, or there could be implicit violence in schools around bullying and other sensitivities. We wanted to see if we pilot this, we can enable the coordination of specialized services that are available for women and children who are victims of violence and abuse. And we know that in our communities, there's a number of NGOs, there's a number of social services that government provides. However, we often find that in communities, that help is not coordinated. And we've done that through this pilot, through the multi-sectoral approach, which I'll chat to you about shortly. Would like to tackle this cycle between vulnerable women and vulnerable children. We all know that it is highly likely that a vulnerable woman would be looking after children that would also be vulnerable because their mothers are vulnerable. And we want, through programs that we are implementing, would like to tackle that cycle and break it and make sure that we're having conducive communities. Lastly, we would like to empower our learners to deal with psychosocial effects of violence and abuse in their environments. The social ills that normally affect our schools, and I'm sure my fellow panelists will touch more on these, they relate from bullying, gang-related crimes, gender-based violence, neglect, abuse, violence, alcohol abuse, and substance abuse. And these, at the end of the day, we see their effects in the classroom. They delay our curriculum coverage, and therefore, at the end of the day, you find that when you've got learners that are directly affected by the social ills, they are not able to achieve the educational outcomes. Now, our objectives, tightly linked to the rationale, part of it is to empower women and children by educating them on how to protect themselves against abuse and exploitation, and that we do through our partners and through the programs that we run in the Thari program. We would like to develop a system that is able to help us monitor women and children who are victims and survivors of abuse and exploitation, and also to develop effective and sustainable replicable models to preventing violence against women and children. Cyril Ramaphosa Foundation sees itself as a model builder, and hence the last objective speaks to that. We pilot models that we think that broader society throughout South Africa can be implemented by a number of partners. So through implementing this program, we are trying to see what is the best way that we could support our schools and schooling communities to deal with issues of violence and social ills that affect them, so that we can create safe environments for learning. Once we are done with our pilot, we'll be able to package it and share with the Department of Education, of which we've started sharing the lessons that we are learning from this, so that they can include it in their plannings for strategic purposes for education. Now, Thari, we are implementing it in 3 pillars. The first one is the psychosocial support services for women and children. We have safe parks, which are therapeutic spaces for vulnerable children, and a multi-sectoral approach. It's important to remember, as I'm going through what the program is about, that this is a school-based program, and it supports stakeholders that are linked to the schools in which we are working in. And we are doing it this way because we believe that the school is a central space where we can capture most learners that are vulnerable, as well as their mothers and their broader families can be supported easily in that fashion. Psychosocial services support. What we have there, we have appointed 14 child and youth care workers, and they work in the 8 schools in Botshabelo. This part of this pillar we are only implementing in Botshabelo, and they work with the school-based support teams that are in the schools, because we believe in partnerships. So we do not come in and impose ourselves on a school. We work with the structures that exist in that school. The child and youth care workers, they also do home visits, they do assessments, and they assist the educators on a day-to-day basis in identifying learners that may be in trouble and assisting them to make sure that their cases are resolved. They work under supervision of social workers from the Department of Social Development, as well as social workers from Adopted School Foundation. We've established safe parks. The one that is the most permanent safe park that we have is the one that we have at Rienzeng Primary School in Botshabelo. We launched it in 2017, And in the other 7 schools, we operate informal safe parks, which are monitored by 2 child and youth care workers. This serves as an after-school space, therapeutic space. It also opens during weekends and during school holidays, and it runs programs and facilitates the support of the psychosocial support that we offer to the learners in the school. The multi-sectoral approach is one that we are piloting in both Botshabelo and in Diepsloot. This is a multi-stakeholder forum where we have all stakeholders and parties that work in that provide social services that are in the journey to improve the conditions of society as we are trying to do. And these range from government, from civil society, and business. We collaborate in terms of knowledge, on expertise, on programs, and we ensure that there's harmony and sharing best practices and integrated techniques. Most importantly, we support our schools to be able to engage and work with stakeholders, because often we find that many of us would go and say we would like to give back at a school, but you find that our efforts are not coordinated. So the multi-sectoral approach, we are piloting to say, can we be able to take this approach and implement it in many other schools? Because we know that in many communities, there already exist government services, there already are civil society that are active there, and the business community that is there. So far, since 2017, we have, our impact figures are that we have impacted 702 children that have benefited from psychosocial support services. 486 families have indirectly benefited from psychosocial support services. This is important because our child and youth care workers also do family visits. They support the learner and extend the support to their families, in particular focusing on their mothers. The reason we say we're supporting women, we know that most of our families are female-headed households, and we find that many of the children that are vulnerable come from such households, or households that are led by their grannies, and the essence of absent fathers may also contribute to some of the challenges that we are having. 1,936 learners they've been reached through the Safe Park and its services, and 2,472 learners have been reached through awareness campaigns. These awareness campaigns, we also target boys to assist them to understand and to not leave anyone behind in all the awareness campaigns that we bring through. We've done career expos, in particular in Diepsloot, and this year in particular, because of the COVID situation, we have gone and did an outreach together with our stakeholders through the multi-stakeholder forum, and motivated the metrics and made sure that the environment and the COVID pandemic does not leave everyone unmotivated as if there is no future to look out to. So the work that our social workers together with the child and youth care workers with the stakeholders have enabled us to reach these figures that you're looking at now. We've partnered with a number of organizations. UNICEF, because when we unpacked this model and said we would like to do something to address school safety and violence and assist women to deal with these, we went and borrowed a model from UNICEF. So UNICEF remains a critical partner in the work that we do. They were implementing what they call Izibindi Esikolweni, and what we did was to adjust it so that it suits the schools and the programs that we do. We partner with social development, with SAPS, with basic education, Save the Children, and a number of other local stakeholders. For instance, in Botshabelo and in Diepsloot, there are other groupings that have already formed themselves to address the same scourge of social ills and gender-based violence. And these partnerships, they ensure that there is harmony and we are able to share best practices and integrate in our efforts, so that because working in silos trying to address the same, we know that it will not give us the best results that we see today. Chairperson, thank you. In closing, as you had mentioned that we do not have enough time, but I will be happy to take questions, is that we have found over the years that we are implementing this pilot program that the role of leadership in society, in our own organization, is quite important. it's important to recognize that when we are piloting, we can fall into different pitfalls. We can have limited resources to fulfill what we had originally intended. And the role of leadership and leadership in communities is quite important for us to succeed in implementing such programs. Partnerships and collaborations, you would see that the panelists we're having today, those are some of the partners that we work with. And we believe that without partnerships and collaborating with others, we would not be able to achieve what we would like to achieve. Different organizations have got a number of missions which, when we come together, we find that we are able to have the outcomes that we desire. And through these partnerships, we are able to say that, are we able to even dream of scaling and sustaining these kinds of programs throughout South Africa? Monitoring and evaluation is quite important. We had in Thari had to have a stop-start in terms of the numbers that we are looking at. And now we are quite confident that if you ask us of how many learners we have reached, we are able to give you accurate data. This is important because at the end of the day, you would like to know if the intervention is working or not. And how would we do that when we are not having accurate monitoring and evaluation? We are intending to scale this program because the results that we've seen, even through our partners and the Department of Basic Education, through the educators, the school principals, and the school governing bodies, we have received the messages that this is a program that should be accessible to most learners in South Africa. And to scale and sustain such a program requires us to have more other partners, such as funding partners, expert partners, and research partners. We are already in partnership with the University of the Free State on the side of research partnership. However, we would like to call out to corporates out there to say that looking after the social ills and the learners that go through our schools is actually equivalent to contributing immensely to building a brand new school. We know that the investments and social investments that go into infrastructure, into teacher development, are intended to achieve great results, to have great metric outcomes, to have learners that are able to read or write. However, we know that if that learner has got social challenges and psychosocial challenges from the home and into the classroom, that environment can be disruptive, and we may, at the end of the day, not achieve what we intended with the infrastructure investments that we've put through. So I would like to make a call today to say that with the same rigor of ensuring the right to education, we should, as well as ensuring the right to safety, a right to a conducive learning environment that is free from violence. And we can do that by funding such programs, by contributing our expertise, by joining up with others, such as ourselves, that are doing these kinds of programs. With those few words, Chairperson, thank you very much. And this is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for that comprehensive overview on the Thari program. We now know that primarily you are looking at creating an environment that is conducive for learning for children, but also safe for children and women. I think listening to you, it is clear that the Thari program is also looking at ensuring that children survive, are protected, and are development. One of the children's rights in the universal children's rights, some of the children's rights, universal rights, are survival, protection, and development, and clearly all of these are well taken care of within the Thari program. But I must indicate that we learned the hard way, in South Africa, that coming in with programs that are very good without taking communities into our confidence and explaining and heightening their awareness on all those programs sometimes is actually the downfall of the efforts that we make in our communities for the benefit of children. So perhaps the Thari program could also look at readying communities for for the Thari Programme as another pillar that the program looks at in terms of implementation of the program. The other thing that I think is important to indicate is that it is good that UNICEF is part of the partners for Thari and all the other stakeholders, critical partners you have mentioned. But I think it is also important that we should have included in Thari as a partner, the Office on the Rights of the Child in this country, which is currently based in the Department of Social Development. But with those few words, I think your presentation was very good. I think we are all on the same page now. Attendees, if you have questions for Mabatu, please let's see those questions either through raising your hands or through the question and answer tab. In the question and answer tab, we have 2 questions. One from Sandra, who wants to know, Mabatu, how your CWCYS are trained and capacitated. Can you help us with that answer, Mabatu, please? CYCWS stands for Child Care Youth Workers. How are they trained and how are they capacitated? Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Emma. Our child and youth care workers are qualified child and youth care workers. They're actually registered with the National Association of Child and Youth Care Workers in South Africa. And this is one of the professions that I guess many people are not aware of, that as part of the social auxiliary group of professions, that there are young people that are trained, and government did some training a few years ago. And in Botshabelo, they are also trained. And how they are also capacitated is that they are supported by our social workers from Dr. School Foundation, and they continue to take different types of trainings. But I know that my part was a child and youth care worker. And once she gets to presenting in the panel, we'll tell you more about their work and how they can, how they are continuously capacitated, and you'll hear from her the kind of work that they do. But yes, they are fully trained, they are registered, we make sure that they do not have criminal records, and they are not child offenders as well. So yes, we are confident of the work that they're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mabatu. Sandra, I hope you have gotten your answer there, but you'll hear more when a presentation is made by CYCWS. There's another question from Monica. She wants to know how best to partner with Thari in terms of implementation of this program. Mabatu, do you want to respond to that, please?
Certainly. We are currently operating, so I'm not sure where Monica is currently at. The program is currently being piloted in Diepsloot and in Botshabelo, and we would share the details after this webinar of the head of the program, so that you can be in touch with her. Mainly we partner through direct participation through the Multi-Sectoral Forum. That's where organizations that are active on the ground and work with us. And for other partnerships, of course, we are open to have further discussions to enhance our model.
Thank you. Sandra, thanks, Mabatu. Sandra wants to know how this good program can help address the alarming rate of school dropouts in our country. I think it's a very important question. Mabatu, can you help answer that?
What we have recognized together with our teams and the stakeholders that we work with, ordinarily every year we host a career expo where we motivate high school learners to choose proper careers and to apply on time and to apply for resources to study. However, with the lockdown this year, we realized that wouldn't have been possible. And what the Multi-Sectoral Forum in Diepsloot has done, they created a program where they went to 8 schools together with SADC, which is one of our partners, that the Anxiety and Depression Association. We went with motivational speakers to go and engage with matriculants in particular, to make sure that we monitor that. But because we work in schools, when there's a child that is vulnerable and is at risk of dropping out, our child and youth care workers, together with the educators, are able to attend to specific children. However, our activations and our presence in communities, young people know that they can reach out to Thari to come and engage with us. Thank you.
Okay, colleagues, let's go to the next panel member. We will come back to Paseka. Maipato, can you please talk to us about child and youth care workers, how to close the gap between school and community services?
Greetings to you, colleagues. My name is Maipato Mafandiri. I am a child and youth care worker, and it is an honor to provide my services under the Thari Programme. My job is to provide support to women and children affected by various social problems, including gender-based violence. I was born and bred in Botshabelo. Back in the days when I was a child, there was no need to worry about issues that young people face today. Currently, there are high levels of crime nowadays, violence, substance abuse, youngsterism, and teenage parenthood in the community. I grew up trusting my parents, neighbors, and every older person in the community. They were all there to protect and guide me. Things have now changed. There is little trust in the community on issues of child protection because everyone has become a potential perpetrator. Through Thari Programme, the child and youth care workers work with both the child, family, and community services to try to bring back culture of supporting and protecting each other so that we are all safe. Our intervention process as child and youth care workers is through a cycle of care. The child is at the cycle of service. The teachers identify a child at school or children with problems or challenges in the classroom. So after that, the child is then referred to child and youth care worker for assessment. And then after assessment, we then conduct a home visit to meet the family and explore further on the problem reported by the teacher. This process involves building a trusting relationship with the child and family, because some of our children don't have challenges. Some of our children have challenges with their family because bana ba bangata ha ba trust batswadi ba bona more enough, because sometimes ha ba jwetsa dintho ha ba ba kgolwe. So this process involves building a trusting relationship with the child and family. We engage and refer to additional services such as social development, because we are not working alone on this, Department of Health, SASA, Home Affairs, where necessary. We then provide feedback to the teacher and the school-based support team so they are aware that the child is receiving help and that further observation should be made in the class. So, a focus hantle dithutong tsa hae ka tlelaseng, a ska ba le waria ntho tse ngata. As an additional intervention, the child is supported through after care program at the Safe Park. The after school care program includes educational support activities such as homework supervision. On homework supervision, ki mane mo bana ba tla ba kopanetse dibuka di a shota mo sekolong ba kopanetse dibuka. So after school, bana ba kopana, child and youth care worker etsa supervision go bana ba etse homework so that hosane ngwana e mong le mong a ba etse homework ya teacher. And then study groups and peer support. Physical or sports activities such as soccer, netball, and free play. Mo ki mo le mo ma teacher kana le mosebetsi o mongata, So after school, ba batla ho practice netball or soccer. So ha hona motho a ba supervisang, child and youth care worker ya kenella mo ya thusa. Recreational activities such as chess, Scrabble, indigenous game, and art. So mane ho chess ke mane mo chess e thusa bana on mathematics, and then on Scrabble e thusa bana on building words, and then e ba thusa le mo spelling bee. Through above mentioned activities, we aim to bring back the culture of extra curricular activities that when I grew up, each child was part of. Jolo ka bo diketo, khati, morabaraba. I just want to share that the above mentioned process is not short term. It takes long and it presents its own challenges. Through family engagement, we come across situations of child abuse. In other cases, the teenager is the one abusing the caregiver. Ana go tse ding kana lo o blame batswadi re batswadi ha ba tshware bana hantle o fumana ngwana ke yena a fang batswadi ba hae mathata. Through family engagement, we come across situations of child abuse. In other cases, the teenagers is the one abusing the caregiver. In both situations, we realize the vulnerability of children and caregivers who are often women. Children are afraid to report cases of abuse and neglect because they want to protect their caregivers who are also facing abuse. Kana ko tse ding batswadi ha ba sebetse bomme boholo ba bona ha ba sebetse ba support-wa ke bontate. So fumane ngwana ha ile go ntate wa mo abuse ha kgone gore a jetse mme because ntate ke yena breadwinner ka mo ntlong. Caregivers are also scared to discipline their children and ask the school to act, trying to protect themselves against the abuse of teenagers at home. Jolo ka batswadi the caregivers di tshaba ho discipline bana ba tsona because bana jwale ba na di rights tse ngata. So sometimes o tla ba a go discipline ngwana and then ngwana wa mo tshwarisa o fumana go motswadi ke yena mathateng. These challenges need a collective effort from all services providers. Hence, child and youth care workers engages all stakeholders. Ka tsela e jwalo mosebetsi ona ha se mosebetsi o bonolo o ka o etsang re le child and youth care worker fela, so we need support from different stakeholders. This process is done through referrals and awareness campaigns to try to close the gap between the school and community services. That is why referral child and youth care worker, if there is a case and needing relevant stakeholder, you refer the case to a relevant stakeholder. With all this experience, it is my wish that all schools throughout the country could have access to a program like Thari. I thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Maipato, for your presentation. And I'm particularly happy that you raised the issue of children having learned how to be violent and also how to be perhaps undisciplined from ourselves as adults in this country. And in all that unfortunate learning, they also have become abusers in our families. They abuse parents, they abuse families and also caregivers. So I think as child care workers, that is a very important issue to raise and to also see how we are going to deal with it as a nation. So Thari, perhaps in the work that you do in developing models, this is one area that we should look seriously at and see how to guide our society and families in terms of how to handle children in this particular, who display such behavior. You also raised the issue of lack of educational material in schools and outdoor equipment at schools for sports and similar activities. I think if there are corporations attending in our webinar here, that is one area amongst others they could be looking at. You raised the issue of children having rights in the country and therefore making it difficult for us as a society to guide and to reprimand and to discipline our children. And I think where we went wrong as a country was not to emphasize child responsibilities when we taught children about their rights. But moving forward, I think that's one area that we should really focus on and indicate and bring it to the attention of children that every right goes with a responsibility. But thank you very much. Questions, please, attendees. Just raise your hands so you can speak directly to the panelists and to Maipato and ask your questions if you can, please. There are 2 questions in our question and answer tab. Sina Muruani from UNICEF wants to know, recommends that Thari Programme is one of the best models that respect the best interest of the child, but also reflect the importance of ensuring that different actors bring their expertise to ensure that we work together for the benefit of the child. She emphasizes that Thari teaches us so thank you very much for your comment, Sina. It was just a comment. You also further comment and indicate that the 3 approaches created a space for everyone to realize the 3-legged pot with very clear activities stimulating child cognitive and cognitive abilities. So we also thank you for your comments. I think that's all you wanted to say. It's not a question, but thank you for your input. Monica Moafi, you have a question, please go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I just want to congratulate Mafandiri, Maipato, for the presentation. And seeing that they've got such a model with the youth care workers with Thari, we would like to add that, you know, the responsibility of the child should be more emphasized in going forward. You have said it already, Mabel, that the child's rights goes with responsibility. So they need a program before they could say, you know, on our group of kids, we've got this group, you know, like a group of, you still remember we used to have the ACM. In your group, what are your rights? What are your responsibility? And moving forward. And parental as well, because parental is it's one of the things that we are lacking. People think that because they are parents, they've got all the rights towards the kids. So they need also to add into the program that parental should be one of the focus point as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, OC, for your emphasis there. It was also emphasis, not necessarily a question. Monica, we see your hand is up. Please go ahead, OC Monica Moafe. Oh, okay, Tabang Lekhelebani. Sorry, Monica, you had already spoken. Tabang Lekhelebani, please go ahead and unmute. Yes, thank you.
Okay, hello, ma'am.
Hello, Ndati.
Like I'm Mabel.
I'm not a
No, I'm not. Yeah, ki Tabang Lekhelebani. Yeah, I can only question who Maipato.
Okay.
Yeah, ni ke botsetsa ntheng ya like di mo dikolo mo di sebetsang tena ga botshabelo ne like hona le like na le problem ya substance abuse a holo ba ne ba tswa kena school ne. So question ya ka go rena Maipato na le rehabilitation centers tse sebetsana le tsona directly, especially how na maybe like hona le ngwana sebetsana le sekolo o na le bothata ba ntwa substance na. Yeah, ke yona potso ya ka eng.
Thank you, Tate. Maipato.
Okay, thank you, Ntate, for your question. When it comes to substance abuse, Seed Foundation substance abuse, and then the social development. I'm gonna analyze as a child need care worker. I refer the case to Seed Foundation or Multi-Social Work and banality programs substance abuse. I don't know if I answered your question clearly.
Tate, what's of it? Tatil Khaleban. Okay, I think one of the issues that I would like to raise, my pato, is that when you do refer, which is very important because expertise lies everywhere in different institutions, I think when you refer, it is important to follow up on that referral just to make sure that the difference is being made in the life of the child referred. But otherwise, thank you very much for your presentation.
Okay, can I please say this? Most kolonganala happily group therapy, and then more group therapy, more vulnerable banaba substance abuse, banale problem is one. Asur maybe refer a failure and a leona group therapy, mubana bakonang babue on different problems sabona, and then result follow up if one answer attend Ionacid Foundation or social development.
Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Yeah.
We are running out of time. We need to go to the next panel. My partner, the presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for your contributions also.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I wonder if Mapaseka has joined us already. Doesn't look like it. So shall we proceed then to Colonel Mohaji, please, who is with the Social Crime Prevention in the Free State, the South African Police Service. And she will be talking to us about statistics on cases of violence as reported in schools. So Lieutenant, please take over.
Thank you. I am Colonel Mujahi, Lieutenant Colonel Mujahi from the SAPS at Province. Yes, my office is Social Crime Prevention. My presentation for today will be with regard to the stats. I want to also indicate that I'm not gonna present stats as in numbers, but I will give you a presentation that will talk to that. My background will be with regard to the relationship that we have with Department of Education. We started 2014 where we signed a protocol between Education and South African Police Service. The main purpose was to build partnership that will assist in preventing and reducing crime at schools and improve discipline amongst learners by initiating projects and awareness campaigns which will focus on priority crimes and challenges at schools. Another important aspect is that we need to mobilize the community to take ownership at schools. In achieving that, we have partnered with Department of Education, Department of Health, and Department of Social Development, Justice, businesses, civil societies, traffic, home affairs, almost all the departments, we have partnered with them. Now, my second emphasis will be on the issue of reporting system at schools, how crimes is being reported at schools. Let me also start by saying that any child who commits a crime or an offense should be reported. There is a Child Justice Act that is in place. We mustn't ignore crime saying the child is underage, because some people don't report crime because they say, I don't want to report because this child is too small. Remember that the Child Justice Act is the one that is guiding us. Now, a total number of 111 police stations is linked to 1,112 schools in the Free State. That means each and every police station or each and every school is linked to a police station. Therefore, all those schools have a school safety coordinator that is working with them. And they are trained, the school safety coordinators. They are appointed in writing, they are trained to work with the school safety officers. Within the 1,112 schools, we have 71 schools that we say they are priority schools. Those priority schools are the schools that are being focused on based on the reports that we are receiving from the districts. Remember, schools and police stations are sending us incidents that happened at schools. That is where now we take number of schools that we are going to work on in a specific financial year. For an example, last year it was 72, this year is 71. We don't just decide in an office to say those schools are going to be the ones. We talk to Department of Education, we sit, we plan, we compare the incidents, and we agree. The number 71 is the number that is being allocated from national office, as per report that they are having there. Now, the school safety coordinators in the Free State are also trained to sit in meetings, which is a school safety committee meetings that needs to be held each and every month at schools. The importance of this meeting is that they sit around the table with the management of the school, and then they talk around crimes that are happening at schools. That meeting is very important because that is where now we know which type of projects we need to conduct. And then the reporting of complaints or crime can be done at a police station. You can report it to your school safety coordinator. You can report it to the school management, because in any ways, all these people, somewhere, somehow, they are still going to meet in a meeting. They will discuss the crime and then they will make a decision. Remember that any activity or any awareness campaign that is taking place at schools, the school principal needs to give a go ahead. Yeah. The school principal needs to give a go ahead for us to continue with the project. Therefore, we don't decide on a project and then come to school and then initiate something where the principal did not give an approval on. So any person can report crime that is happening at schools, in the community. The parents can also report. Educators can also report. Learners can report. Any other organization that have or are observing any criminal activity taking place or are concerned about crime that is happening at schools, they can go and report crime. Now, I spoke about the reports that we are getting from the districts or from the police stations around us. That is telling us what incident or what crime was happening. Therefore, based on that, we have identified the following priority crimes that were reported. We have a lot of burglaries that took place at schools. I think many of us spoke about the issue of COVID-19. That was one of the reasons where the schools were closed and people started breaking into schools, taking computers and laptops and even food. Another issue that we are dealing with at schools is bullying, is gangsterism, substance abuse, is theft, and then also gender-based violence. We have already initiated awareness campaigns and school searches. Therefore, this will be our achievement based on that. We are having an anti-gang drug strategy developed and a monitoring tool is in place. School safety plan was developed and it was implemented in the province. This school safety plan was rolled out in the province, and the SAPS didn't do it alone. We did it hand in hand with the Department of Education. Now, on a yearly basis, where we spoke also about the issue of learners that are dropping out of school. So within the SAPS, each and every year, in the beginning of the year, the provincial executive embark on a school readiness plan where we visit schools with them, and then we talk to the learners and we try to motivate them to stay at school. We already make them aware of the challenges that they are going to face, because remember, some of them might be new at the specific schools. So that is what we are doing. And then the provincial management that is visiting the learners, they also talk to them. It's not only our office that speaks to them. Our general himself, now it's a lady, our general herself would go to schools and talk to the learners on issues relating to bullying, gangsterism, gender-based violence, and substance abuse, because they are the main when you talk to crime that is happening at schools. Continuously, the anti-crime campaigns awareness includes school searches are conducted at the hotspot schools. Those are the 71 priority schools. We also have the junior commissioners that are appointed throughout the province, and they are placed at schools to advocate against violence and crime. We also have the youth and social responsibility priority crime, where all the different role players sit around the table and we discuss issues relating to youth and social responsibility. Now, for the past financial year, the SAPS have already conducted 884 awareness campaigns at schools. We have also conducted 453 searches and seizures. Just to inform you that the awareness campaigns that we are doing, we don't just do them and then we leave the kids. When we identify a problem, then we will have maybe an operation that is being held there to do searches and seizure. But also we identify learners that struggles with either their background issues of poverty and stuff. For example, we have 2 learners that we took, that we adopted. The one learner is a girl. She had a baby, but she didn't leave it there. She stood up, she went back to school. She's one of the best. She finished last year. And then we arranged a farewell function for the 2 learners. So we don't just go to schools and leave the situation as it is. That's what I wanted to emphasize on. And now the SAPS role in support of abused women and children. Now that the SAPS have 111 police stations and all stations have victim empowerment facilities. And those victim empowerment facilities are addressing the minister's 6-point plan. That would be the victims must be treated with respect and dignity, assistance with statement taking, referral of the victim for medical examination, investigation will be referred to the detective, referral to victim support service. Victims will be assured that they will receive feedback on their cases. The SAPS work hand in glove with Thuthuzela Center. In Bloemfontein, it is situated there by National Hospital. Now, Thuthuzela is assisting us with victims of gender-based violence, including counseling, including medical support. These Thuthuzela or these centers, they're also located in Bethlehem, Zamdela, Belkom, and Putadichaba. Victims are referred to social development or social department for further professional assistance. Now, in some instances, like it has already been mentioned, you will find out that caretakers become victim of crime, where kids are abusing their caretakers. Now, our struggle here is that caretakers don't want to report, don't want to open cases for a simple reason that I'm scared that my child won't be able to get a job. They won't be able to, continue with their studies. Now, that is very problematic. If I should make one example, we have an incident where a parent called the police to say a child is abusing her. We went there, the case was opened, the mother came to the police station and said, but I didn't say you must arrest my child. I just wanted you to talk to the child. Now you should understand, if the child is abusing a parent, there's no way, if I know about it, I cannot just say, you must stop doing it because That is somebody else's duty. That is not my duty. If you call me, make it at least the last option. You must make a decision that you are now tired, you want the police to take charge. So that is one of the challenges that we are having with regard to the child that actually abuses their own caretakers. Now, the provincial government or department in prevention of violence at schools have the following. We are having provincial joint meeting that is consisting of different stakeholders. This one is a different meeting comparing to the one that I spoke about. The one was specifically about the youth, but this one is where different stakeholders sit around the table and they discuss issues that will assist us in building our youth. Now, this committee also check on issues of compliance. As we are saying we are doing this and that, now they are checking if we are really complying with what we committed to. Now, in conclusion, I want to say, as a person that is working in this Office of Social Crime Prevention, this COVID-19 is really killing me. Now, I think it has a very serious impact when it's coming how we used to do things. One of this is that there is no more physical interaction between the police and schools. Based on number of the number given to us, we must only be at least 50 if we want to have an imbizo or an awareness campaign. But now, previously we used to have even more than that. It can be 1,000. We used to reach the community. It is difficult now. So the lack of access of phones and data from the community pose a further challenge because not everyone have access to that. So it makes it difficult for us. The SAPS have strategized to conduct door-to-door campaigns in Bizos via radio to reach out to the community. That will be my presentation. I thank you.
Thank you, Memo Haji, for your presentation. I liked especially when you clarified the distinction between social work and police services. I think parents need to be sensitized to that, to say, Hari Amaponi saying, we are really taking our children to prison, Mararia the social working, it's a different approach. So thank you very much for that. But I also picked up from your presentation that police stations have very active children's desks. And if that is the case, I think we are doing well as a country. And perhaps the South African Police Service can also link up once again with the National Office on the Rights of the Child, because they are a critical partner in that context. And they would bring a lot of support in terms of technical support around children and other support that you will need as an office, as police service, to make sure that we do right by our children in this country. In terms of questions, our attendees, I see there are 3 questions in our question and answer tab, and I'll start with Melanie Spencer, who wants to know what the process that takes place is if a child is arrested for abusing an adult or another child. Do they get a criminal record? Can you please respond, Mem Haji?
Okay, thank you, Melanie. Yeah, if a child committed a crime, like I already mentioned, remember that no one is above the law, even if the child is underage. That is why we have a Child Justice Act. Now the child would be taken to the police station, a docket will be opened, but remember, there's no statement that will be taken from a child without either a parent. If a parent is a complainant, social worker will be there. We are having social workers that are on standby on daily basis. And then the docket will be opened, the statement will be taken in front of the parent or the social worker. We are also having facilities where we detain our youth. Here in Bloemfontein is stop one. So yeah, a child can be arrested. And then when they get to step one, they have their own court that is working with a juvenile court. That is where we end. But the court will decide what to do with the child, but it will end there at the juvenile court.
Thanks for your answer, Memo Haji. Sina Muruwani wants to know, Memo Haji, in protecting child rights to privacy and confidentiality, can we be clarified how child and youth care workers engage parents and teachers on behavioral problems the child experiences? And maybe this is not a question for you, but more for Maipato. But if you can answer, please do. Maipato, if you can help out, please be ready to do so. Memo Haji, please.
Okay, thank you, Sina Maureen, for the question. In protecting the child's rights to privacy and confidentiality, we can be clarified how child and care workers engage parents and teachers on behalf of problem the child experience. Okay, I think Messina, child and care worker engage parents because ngwana a kere ke ngwana motswadi, and then teacher yona e tla be kene ka baka la baneng o sekolong o kuta ngwana o kgona bona behavior ya ngwana mo sekolong le problem a etsang. So ke nana hore e engage motswadi, teacher, child and youth care worker le different stakeholder hore ngwana a be hantle ntho a ska behavior ya hae e be hantle, a kgone hore a hole hantle. Ha ke tsebe kapa ke ya rabile hantle mme.
Okay, ma'am. To add to what Maipato said, remember when the incident is reported to us, definitely we engage with the parents, and then the social development form part of that. Remember, Maipato is also some of our stakeholders that assist with regard to that. So all the role players that are relevant are being engaged with the child. An incident is reported, and if the child is supposed to be arrested, definitely it will go via all the channels.
Thank you very much. I think we will stop there with our questions. Time is not on our side. Can we go to the second speaker, Mtatepa Second Jobe? I see you have finally joined us. You are most welcome. Please go ahead with your presentation, which is going to focus on the safety framework to prevent violence against women and children in schools. Please go ahead.
Hey, thank you, Banabes. Good morning. Technology in Alinto Zion, it can be very disappointing. I struggled today. However, we will make that time. I'm going to share my presentation with yourselves. And I'll try to run quite quickly so that we can engage more than the presentation itself. Do you have it? I've just put it on the screen. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes, we can see it in that.
Presentation mode, please.
Okay, I'll go to the slides. Then let me not bore you that. I'll just go to the content. The key thing is that I want to remove myself here and then you listen to my voice. The key thing is that basic education, and when we say basic, I'm also speaking to all the 9 provinces as a sector. We are using the National School Safety Framework. Lieutenant has been referring to some of the areas, so you'll see some overlaps. This is a framework, or it's a tool that informs the system, and what we are doing now. Because we're unable to go to schools, we are migrating our work into digital platform. But secondly, we also want to strengthen controller access into schools. That is a function that has been very, very difficult for us to do because we don't have the capacity to have either in quote police or security personnel because it's very costly. But we are talking to Treasury to fund us in the next 3 years so that we can be able to really make sure that the infrastructure is ahile. It's secured. But number 3, we've got to, I'll talk to this point here, emergency or risk management later. It appears in the slide. The last part is that we want also to encourage a multidisciplinary intervention. On our own, education won't be able to do. We need justice, we need police, but very difficult. It's the parent body, code, or the community. Schools belong to communities and schools are destroyed by communities. So we think there is something wrong there that we must work towards. And what we're trying to do, the school safety framework, bullet number 3, is to build that social ecosystem where we get almost everybody, one, the teacher, the parent, the stakeholders, the educators, ourselves as a state, but social development, because it really has social workers, psychosocial support is very central. And we are looking into the tool that the UNESCO is giving us. The last bullet, it's the INSPIRE framework. It is an acronym of things that I'm going to speak to, INSPIRE. No, but I'm just trying to rush.
Put your screen full screen, make it full screen on your computer, please.
Okay, a presentation screen.
Yes.
Okay, I'll do that.
Thank you.
Next, about the bioscope. So the most important thing is to make sure that Redilaka violence from a statistical point of view rather than the headlines. So what the slide is trying to tell us is what are the trends and what are the issues that are a crisis to us. And I want to go to bullet number 4, bullying. This is a major, major problem that is happening. On the last bullet we're saying it is changing in form. Bullying remains there. And then others keep bullying, the albinos, bullying, sexual orientation, all those things. But the most critical one that the lieutenant will tell you about is the cyberbullying now. It is wild because parents have given the children very powerful tools. Their cell phones are highly advanced and we are not able to control them even as parents, but we'll talk about those matters. And we know that I want to go down to the sexual violence. It's very common and it's unfortunate that we know this one is a South African problem, the gender-based violence, which is, it is one of those areas that at this discussion, we're trying to make children to be secure. How can we surround them, even if things can happen? But we've got overage learners in schools because of the constitution that says all learners have a right to learn. And they are very difficult to manage in terms of what educators can do. I won't speak in detail to this, but just looking from the left to right, 34% bullying, it's happening there, 21% of vandalism. This one is very sad. Communities vandalize schools. Communities are not seeing schools as their heritage. They don't see school as an asset. Okay, we know the nutrition programs, and people know that the schools have good groceries. The computer, they are learning in the computer centers. Communities go and steal those things, and they're very expensive to replace. And the last one that is an extreme end, Lieutenant will tell you, use and possession of drugs. Banabaruna are using the drugs. Drugs are given by parents. It is the same parents who sell drugs to children. It's the same community that is destroying its own children. Drum, the drum majority here at the bottle store to celebrate the Rojola Buboots. I want to indicate that we have found that the bullying of boys is higher, and you know, if you take Free State, Eastern Cape, and which province? Katabatsa, Lebullo. Those boys who are seen to have gone to hospital for their circumcision, and the boys that have gone to the mountains, when they come back, they are difficult to manage in the classroom. And then other boys, you know, those things are very difficult in our school environment. And we are experiencing high levels here, teen sexual victimization. And I don't want to spend time. Gender-based violence is well recorded in South Africa. We are very happy that the Women and Children Department, Social Development, and the Presidency are really pushing the agenda. What we are doing, we're contributing already at a school level. But we do have support in the present government to really, really respond to gender-based violence. The girl children are under attack. We have added a new chapter, our school safety. It is a disaster and risk management in schools. It's a matter, if I want to remind the conference, is blind children in Northwest in 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, I think it was in 2016. They are hostel banned, and because there were no emergency systems put in place, some children died because of that. And so what we have done, we're adding a new chapter. We've got a very powerful relationship with Santam Insurance. And we piloted in Free State, and all the learners with special, the schools with special needs, we are now auditing what are the risk chapters. And then we are going to go all over the country. There are about 450 schools for learners with disabilities. We are prioritizing them, and then we'll go to the public schools in general. But this is a very interesting chapter. COVID-19, they gave us the PPEs that are suitable for learners with special needs in Northwest, Free State, Northern Cape, and Mpumalanga. Quite a big contribution. You will be invited, some of your colleagues. We are trying to put a conference together with Santam that must focus on disaster and risk management, because schools have not done well to prioritize this. I spoke about the Inspire framework, and I won't go into detail, but we're using this new tool. The ecological system, how do we involve almost everyone into the schooling? Something that used to be there. The implementation of the laws for bringing back the norms and values. You know, respect for adults, respect for property, respect in all forms of being Africans, you know, in South Africa. Safe environments, you know, parent and caregiver support. You have spoken at length, caregivers, and those are the most important foot soldiers we have. But unless we address the income and economic problem, but to have a economy is very low for the women, especially who are raising these children. And we need a powerful response and support services. Lieutenant has spoken about President having opened those special courts, and then those special kind of safe spaces for victims of violence. It's critical, but we must also emphasize on education and life skills. So there are slides that speak to each of these. So I really don't want to take your time. Implementation of laws, which laws we talk about, the norms we're talking to, the bystanders. We look into the videos every day. Can I video Maobani where 2 days ago in KZN, Banababa Bedi Babanana were fighting. But others, today in the morning we're told that kid has died. And others did nothing to intervene. We are in a car accident, people run and take the video clips. The family is not made aware, the protocol in the video is running already. The bystanders don't assist us. And really, really, this is a problem. And if you go through the slide, colleagues, you realize that they are really trying to cover a wide spectrum of areas, and I don't want to take too much time. I will take questions where it is necessary. Parent and caregiver support. We must try very hard. We're using the QLTC, the Quality Learning and Teaching Campaign, to try to get into the committees, such as the traditional corners, the political corners where we don't have access. We're using the QLTC because they have that outreach, so that at the end of the day, whilst we're saying we're looking at the girl child and then women being abused, the way we raise our boy children, the way we don't give support, they are now dehumanized because unfortunately, Kibona who are perpetrators, we must have focused programs that speak to the boy child and raising the boy child. When we raise them, he becomes a very irresponsible father and parent. There are lots of things that we are really missing out. And where there was no boy, no girl, you are kids. You all can wrap the floor. You all must cook. You all must make fire. And if you are raised like that, you even become an asset to your family and so on. On the income and economic strength, I have spoken to that. But the response here, we've got what we call the school safety committees. We have realized that these committees exist in schools, but they're not functional that much. So we've got a program, UNICEF is going to support us, let's say, the children to really go back to schools and make sure that committees that are established, those committees become functional. The learner support agents. These are other foot soldiers in our communities. We are using them, the safe hubs, and which is quite a strong area at Thari. These are the things that we must say, how will you be? So all these are speaking to inspire, and I want to skip that quickly. But our school safety framework, we are pushing already evidence-based so that we can be able to respond properly and use a multi-sectoral intervention on our own. We can't do anything else. And train the teachers and the principals, because these are the people that keep about 8 hours of every day in the classroom, and more than a population, Med Lieutenant, we have about 1,500 learners in a campus at a particular time. And that is the headache of school. Headache principal. If you have not trained that person properly, you might lose quite a lot. And we need proper monitoring and evaluation. And so in conclusion, we do not have answers as basic education. We can only work through ourselves through these webinars and putting our shoulders on the wheel, strong collaboration. And rather than looking to one aspect, we want a whole school approach, wide community involvement, provide life skills, and then ensure that those children that are with having disabilities, the vulnerable one at risk, they are the ones that are highly prioritized. So that is the input we can give. And thank you very much. I will minimize it, or I'll leave it there, depending on the questions. Can I hand over to the facilitator?
Thank you very much, Ntate Paseka. We are going to take 2 questions, colleagues, and the rest of the questions we will entertain when we come to panel reflections later on. And we have a question in the, sorry, let's see. I'm trying to find the questions. I saw questions, but they seem to have disappeared here. Please give me a minute. In the meantime, Ntate Paseka, I noticed that you talked a lot about psychosocial support services, which is good. But it looks to me like we are doing very little in terms of psychological support services to children, especially trauma counseling and any other type of counseling or debriefing, because our children have gone through this COVID-19, or are still within this COVID-19 period and are very traumatized. Are we doing anything as a country around that for children as we take them back to schools?
Do you want me to take them one by one, or they should be asked so that I can respond holistically?
Okay. Yes, let's see who else. I can't find your questions here. I don't know what happened to my computer. Kafiso, Sibudi, please go ahead and ask your question. Kafiso, please go ahead. You raised your hand.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Right, thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. I just wanted to ask about this thing, particularly looking at issues of school safety and how boys are socialized. Looking at how many children coming from fatherless homes, the impact thereof, and the number of male teachers from primary school where children are being taught of foundational teachings. How has that impacted on how boys grow up and are socialized? Is there any form of mitigation that has been given to address something like this? Thank you very much.
Can I respond, ma?
Yes, please go ahead. I'm struggling with something here. Please go ahead.
Thanks very much. You have hit a critical point, the psychosocial support. Not even only besides the questionnaire, the current, you've got the children that are coming from child-headed homes. Most of our children are raised by grandmothers. And most of our children, honestly, we know that parenting, batswadi ba rona are getting younger and younger themselves because kids are getting children at a very tender age. And therefore, they have no particular skills really to parent. And so what we are doing now, and we do have a wing of psychosocial support, and I'm agreeing with you, we depend on what we call the school-based support teams, where the social workers from the district, they train the local kind of schools and then they give them support. But it's an area, honestly, like you would know, our social workers are thinly spread throughout the country because of the dynamics in terms of our problems. So we are working very hard to strengthen the psychosocial support. Yesterday I was in a big consultative conference where we are going to be getting some kind of injection to provide the means of psychosocial support in schools so that you've got a high level of training that is school-based rather than that is district, because a district can only do so much, but you want it ongoing in the school campus. So we've got to train our own right in the campuses. So psychosocial support is very thin and it is central and critical. I want to raise a question here, the boy child. If you remember, we've got a program at GEMBEMS, and I have hinted to that. The men's forums are happening now. There was a time when, because of the scourge that the girl child, that the women were under attack, we then defocused as to where the problem lies. And indeed, it was correct to put all the energy to the girl child to be protected, to the women to be protected, and our mothers and sisters. And now we are trying to really recover quickly to say, let us find spaces where we can socialize our sons differently. Just starting from home, you see that the boy is given authority even over the siblings. Because these are some of the things, the socialization that is wrong that we do. Even in the home, already we're at 10, 15 years because there's been given powers. So these are some of the areas that still need further kind of dialogues. We are putting together through our own Directorate of Social Cohesion a number of programs that will speak to these issues. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Tate Paseka. It is concerning that social workers indeed are thinly spread where they ought to be. When we have so many social workers unemployed in the country throughout the country in communities. But that's a topic that I think the Department of Social Development together with Treasury must look at and see how we as a country harness that expertise which we need badly as a people, because as we know, our nation is largely a very traumatized nation. So thank you for that. All the other questions, colleagues or attendees, we are going to take when we come to panel discussions and reflections later on. But thank you very much, Ntate Paseka. We are now going to our last presenter and panel member, Betty Mangate. How's Betty? Please take over.
Good morning, colleagues. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Okay, I think you can all see the slides. Can you all hear me, colleagues? Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good morning, colleagues. As it has been, as I have been introduced, my name is Betty Mangate. I'm a social worker by profession, working in the Department of Education. Provincial offers in a directorate called HIV/AIDS Support Programs, Inclusive Education and Special Needs. I will just briefly go through the presentation outline, where I will be touching on the legislation, the psychosocial support strategy that we have as a department, our professional capacity and approach, and prevention and intervention strategies that we have. Colleagues, you would understand or agree with me to say children are our greatest asset in the country. And what is key for us is to invest in them properly at a very early age, because when we are not doing that, we somehow would be losing our children. Like Ntate Njove has indicated that boys are bullying and all of that. But we are seeing a great number of our children facing multifaceted challenges in nature, ranging from social or economic domains. However, if we look deeper in our sector as basic education in the province, you would realize that we have more than 700,000 learners already enrolled in our school in this financial year. I'm talking about children from grade 1 to grade 12. And 87% of those are already benefiting from our school nutrition program. That would say to you that we have a high rate of children that are living in adverse poverty environments. And 8% of those children are children who are living with disabilities. These are children with special needs that we need to be taking care of. Now that we are in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have our learners who have already tested positive, though it's a very small percentage of our learners, because it's 0.1% of our learners that have tested positive. But you can realize the impact of the pandemic, the trauma that they went through, you know, through experiencing being testing or being, you know, being subjected to counseling and all of that. But you would understand that all these children that I've alluded to are children that we have classified as vulnerable children that needs to be supported and be given an opportunity to access better opportunities in life and enhance their educational levels. But in order for the department to do that, we need to align ourselves with very specific legislative frameworks. For example, we know that the constitution of our country is saying every child has a right to learn. But if every child has a right to learn, and we have children with different abilities coming from different backgrounds, how do we ensure this right to learning in our schools? We are guided, therefore, by Education White Paper 6 that says every child has an opportunity to learn, but the system must create a conducive environment for that child, however different he is from another child, to be able to learn effectively. Not to say the child must fit into the system, but the system must be able to align itself to meet the needs of the child. We are also using what we call screening, identification, and assessment policy that is guiding us in terms of how do we identify those children who are experiencing psychosocial barriers to learning? How do we assess them and support them? But in essence, we also need to understand that as we are working with children, because somebody earlier on raised an issue of privacy, we are guided by the Children's Act to say, how do we protect the rights of these children as we are providing services and care to them? We also have what we call care and support for teaching and learning, which is our conceptual framework that guides us. It has 10 priorities, but one of those priorities is psychosocial support, of which I'm focusing on today. And how can we forget our action plan? Because we, as Department of Education, we are mandated to also promote access to services. You know, not just services, but effective services that will be inclusive to all our learners. In our endeavor, colleagues and chairperson and our participants, in trying to render psychosocial support in our schools, we are focusing mainly on children and even educators, because we cannot work separately with our children and forgetting the educators, because, you know, when you talk to educators, some of them will tell you that I'm a nurse, I'm a parent, I'm everything when these children are with me at home. So you would understand that whatever psychosocial impact that are there, or challenges that are there that are affecting our children, are equally affecting our teachers. So as a department, we are mandated to also ensure that when we have teachers and learners who are having emotional, mental, psychosocial, behavioral challenges, we must be able to cater for those needs. And we are using our psychosocial strategy to ensure that we minimize the identified barriers and close the gaps that are within the system, because you understand some of these barriers are intrinsic, some of them are extrinsic, which means that some you find them in an environment, our schooling environment, that can cause learners to have psychosocial barriers. We're also looking at improving learner performance by creating what I mentioned earlier, a conducive environment for learners to be able to be taught effectively. And what is also key for us is to provide holistic support, because you understand that sometimes a child will be having multiple barriers. So we need a holistic approach in order to address each child's needs accordingly. But what is also key is to ensure that we retain our learners and reduce our dropout rate. Somebody raised a question earlier on to say, how are we going to care the dropout rate that is, however, possibly coming due to COVID? But that is something that we can engage later on in our discussions. How do we then, as a department, render psychosocial support in our schools, or make sure that our learners access the support? We have 3 layers or levels of support that structures in our department. For example, at the school level, we have what we call the school-based support team. That is a team of teachers and other professionals like our child and youth care workers and the Multi-Disciplinary from Thari would form part of the SBST, where a learner would be identified from the classroom, would be identified from the playing grounds, and be referred to the school-based support team, which will then discuss to say this child's needs or challenges need a social worker or need a psychologist, or would need, then they will further refer that child then to the DBST, which is a district-based support team. A district-based support team is where you get a multi-professional team where you have social workers, psychologists, occupational therapists, audiologists, speech therapists, but it differs according to districts and provinces. We also have sorry for that. We also have our provincial-based support team that is basically focusing on developing programs and developing policies that would guide the implementation of the psychosocial support. What is also key there is to ensure that monitoring and evaluation of our program do happen, because how are we going to see if our programs are effective and we are achieving our goals if we don't monitor and evaluate what we are doing as a department? So all of this process is therefore guided by our CS policy that I have already mentioned earlier on. In terms of our professional capacity, Meranta, you mentioned, you raised a concern earlier on of shortage of social workers within the department, and that we try to respond to that. And if you look at this picture that I've just painted here, in the province, we have about 12 psychologists that are appointed by the department that are rendering services in our schools. But out of that 12, you realize that 5 of them are district-based. So you can see from that picture that our psychologists are thinly stretched. You look at the social workers, we have 28. 18 of them are based in special schools, 10 in the districts. Education change agents, that is our LSAs that Njobe mentioned. We have 31, though we are still in the process of appointing more change agents. Child and youth care workers, we have 57 currently child and youth care workers. But these child and youth care workers are placed in our 2 special schools. These are the 2 schools that are basically rendering services to children who are having severe and behavioral challenges. And amid COVID-19, we also were in partnership with the Department of Social Development, where we are given a total number of 52 social workers that were appointed specifically to deal with trauma-related cases, trauma cases related to COVID-19. So this picture can, when you look at the capacity versus the demand, you can see that as a department, we still need to work more. Hence, we are looking at revising our psychosocial strategies, because when you look at new inventions or new ways of rendering psychosocial support amid to fourth industrial revolution. So all those factors are really pushing us as a department to look deeper into our strategy. Having said that, colleagues, you would understand that we need we can use various approaches in terms of rendering psychosocial support. I mentioned earlier that we are looking at a holistic approach, because we are looking at a child's whole holistic development, recognizing their multi-different or multiple needs, including nutrition, health, communication, etc. We are also looking at or utilizing the support system or multidisciplinary approach, where we are working with different specialists and also working with different sectors. Education is working with social development. We are also working with SAPS and Department of Health and all our NGOs within our province. And then we also using the ecological. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, ma'am, forgive the interruption. Just to say, Nakwerna Yabaliha, you have something like 5 minutes to go, please.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so in terms of the ecological approach, that's where we are saying children, parents, and educators are considered to be partners when we are dealing with psychosocial support. So in terms of planning and implementing and evaluating our strategy. Then in terms of prevention and interventions, I just want to mention a few things there, just to summarize, to say at the primary level, that's where we are looking at advocacy programs where learners are really not showing serious emotional or psychosocial challenges, but we are trying to prevent. But at the secondary level, that is where we are implementing now dealing with early intervention strategies where we are saying we can use individual group therapy, but our approaches is more restorative than punitive. For example, if you get a child that is having severe behavioral challenges, the first thing that previously you would think of is suspending that child. But as a psychosocial section, we are saying we cannot suspend without any psychosocial support be given to that particular child. So at a tertiary level, that's where we are saying now this child has now his or her challenges are escalating to a level that the child needs to go deeper into a system. These are the children that we say they need to be sent to schools of the former known as schools of industries, or some of them are in conflict with the law, they need to be sent to prisons. So that is the tertiary interventions that we are looking at. But as the department, we cannot do this alone, hence we are emphasizing the interdepartmental collaboration, Chairperson. In closing, I would say the department is still continuing to show its commitment to provide quality education to all our learners by ensuring creative and conducive environment, and also to implement all the preventative and psychosocial programs in collaboration with our partners and our stakeholders, and furthermore, to continue value and appreciate the support and partnership we have with Cyril Ramaphosa Foundation, the Thari Project, because you could have seen how extremely stretched our psychologists, social workers, and child and youth care workers. So having Thari as our partners has really assisted us as a province. And I thank you, Chairperson, for your time.
Thank you so much, Betty, and sorry for pushing you. We are running out of time, colleagues. I think those of us who have questions will raise their hands so we can move faster in terms of response to those questions. And also participants, even our panels, I just want to indicate that there's a huge possibility that we are going to run a bit over 12 o'clock, and we might need to, impose on your patience, please. But we won't be too long. Just bear with us and be with us so we can complete our webinar the right way. We've got two hands already up. Tabang Lekelebani again, please. Abuti Tabang, go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, me. Ki na le question ho kolnele. Ha ke tsaka ntsa le teng.
Ntsa le teng.
Yeah, man. Like ba tla check ntwenya ke follow up ntwenya regarding to ya criminal record one. Ke batla ho check le mme kolnele gona ke nthoya if a minor kapa ngwana like maybe 15 kapa 14 13 a committed serious crime like murder kapa rape. So ntwa criminal record ke record if e tlo nkana like e sentse ke na tshebetsong tla re like ntsina kapa if a qeta go 10 18 na ke na question ya ka yeno.
Thanks, go ahead, Mme.
Hello, Tabang. Depending on the seriousness of the case, if a child is being found guilty of committing a crime, definitely the criminal record will kick in immediately.
There's another question from Tate Rulf Reineke. Please go ahead, Rulf.
Good morning, and Betty, thank you for a very good presentation. I just would like to know from you if there are any plans to employ more social workers and even child and youth care workers in the school districts. I've been talking to quite a few social workers the last few weeks, and many of them are telling me, well, they're basically telling me the same thing, that because of COVID, the consequences of that is creating much more psychosocial problems. And now I'm talking to social workers already working in schools, and we know how many schools do not have social workers employed. So my question is, With this in mind, does the Department of Basic Education have any plans to employ more social workers? Thank you for your feedback.
Thank you, Rolf. Please go ahead, May.
Okay, thank you very much, Rolf. Good to hear from you. What I can say is that, like I indicated earlier on, that as a province, we are revising our psychosocial support strategy, and basically for the very same challenges that you've already alluded to say the capacity versus the need out there clearly indicates, and when you look at the norms and standards of our social workers and the child and youth care workers versus to what we are currently doing, there is a great need. But however, the department is deeply looking into, and I think as our partners, you would be greatly updated in terms of the outcome of those discussions. I think.
Okay. Thank you, OC, but I want to agree with Rolf that perhaps as we move forward as a country, Department of Education, we should also consider splitting social services and psychological services, because when we put them together, which is normal, we tend to then focus more on social services and underplay the psychological support services that we must provide in our very traumatized and distressed nation. Thank you. Thank you, May, for your response. There's another hand from Lerato. Lerato, please go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you, Mabel. My question goes to Lieutenant. I don't see her on the panel anymore. I wanted to just find out in terms of you know, the support that they extend to schools, instead of it focusing a lot on outreach, have they thought about also adding an empowerment element where there is visibility by having a buddy system, in a sense that when they are not present, when they are not within the schools or the environment, there are certain people that can also be approached, and then those people can also be, you know, the go-between between the police and also the community, just so that there's an element of consistency. And my other question again was also an issue of, again to the lieutenant as well, if they thought about also adding how do I say this? A psychoeducation, sort of also educating people about what is going on, as opposed to more just information sharing, but also psychoeducation, because sometimes you give information, but people are not educated about what is really going on. And in that sense, it also helps in terms of consciousness raising, awareness, within you, not only within the community, but within yourself as well, where you are able to identify before challenges happen. And the last comment I have, it's not really a question, it's a comment for Ntate. I liked very much, Ntate Njobe, I liked very much what he said about you know, how focus has been paid in terms of the girl child, and very little is said in terms of socialization of the boy child. Yet a lot of the social ills that we see, particularly in terms of GBV, is mostly targeted at women by men. So thank you, that's about that.
Thank you, Lerato. Please, Memo Haji, then it was a comment, and Tate Paseka, it's okay. Memo Haji, can you please respond?
Okay, thank you. I took note of the two questions. The question relating to not only awarenesses can actually assist, but what kind of other efforts are we taking to make sure that in our absence, there's still continuity with regard to making the learners aware? Yes, we do have the program of the junior commissioners within the SAPS. And the junior commissioners are ranging from all different offices that we are having within the SAPS. We're having a junior station commissioner, we are having the Junior Provincial Commissioner, we are having the Junior CPF chairperson. We are also having the Junior Detective Commanders within the province. So I think based on that, it is possible that our learners could be reached even if we are not present. There are also programs that are running where the junior commissioners are dealing with on their own with the youth within their schools. I don't know if that is answering the question relating to that.
Okay, May, thank you for your response. Colleagues, I also just want to say, any one of us who needs to access these presentations made by our panelists, please feel free to contact the Foundation, Cyril Ramaphosa Foundation. I'm sure they will be only too willing to share whatever presentations we may need to access individually of this webinar process. Let's see what other questions we have. So far, we don't have any hands up for our panel. We don't also have questions in our question and answer. Or here's a question from Kiabetsu Sukoboto. Kiabetsu, please go ahead and ask your question. Kiabetsu. Yeah, you've just disappeared from my screen. Okay, I take it we do not have any more questions to answer, but just in wrapping up, I just want to indicate that, or to thank everybody. Sorry. Hold on, here's another question before we wrap up. I'm here, can you hear me? Oh, Kiabet is trying to speak, we can't hear him. You can't hear her, so what do we do? Any assistance, the technical support? Why can't we hear Kiabet?
Maybe she can write it on the chat.
Okay.
She can advise her to write it down.
We do not have any hands up.
You do not have, Kiabet, can you raise your hand again so that we can help you to go audio again? Please raise your hand again, Kiabet. Yeah, there she is. Help us, please.
Hello, can you hear me? Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chairperson, for really trying to get me to get my question through. And thank you very much to all the panelists for the work well done. Really, this was really very beautiful. As much as it was challenging and overwhelming as well, because it deals with the violence at our schools. But really, I want to thank Cyril Ramaphosa Foundation for what you're doing in coordinating the services. My question quickly to the panelists is the child participation. How are children involved in the planning and being part of the program and the evaluation to check the impact? Because a lot of times, I know we do a lot for the children, but they're not part of the programs, especially when it comes to planning. So quickly, if I can just get to understand how the children are part of the programs. Thank you.
Okay, panelists, I'm sure this one is a generic question. We can all do our best to answer, and in terms of our own individual programs, so we can see how child participation features in the work that we do. Can I start with Betty? Betty, I'm going to take you one by one, and I'll start with you, my dear. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Betty. Child participation is highly encouraged in the Department of Education. We have different platforms where we are doing that. We have dialogues, we have seminars, we engage with children at different platforms to enable them the right and conducive platform where we can hear the voice, because we understand the notion that it cannot be for them without them. So everything that we do, any program that we develop, it should be aligned or be tailor-made to their needs. So we're doing that, and after every program that we conduct, there will be an evaluation and feedback that we would derive from our learners so that we can improve moving forward as we engage with them.
Thank you very much, Mome. Kinelo went on also to make a comment. She says this is an important and insightful conversation to have on how stakeholders and corporates can work together with Thari to create safe and empowering school communities that are free from violence, academically, schools that are academically active, inclusive, gender sensitive, and that promote health and the well-being of children, of women and children. So thank you very much for that comment, Kineilwe. We have another hand up. Oh, no. Let's see, we have another question in our questions and answer tab. Thank you, Betty. You told us about child participation in your context. We are Maipato Kinka, we are talking about child participation.
Okay, Betty. Like nyonya banane. Sometimes more on group works. Bana batla di ideas. Like maybe more teenage pregnancy, more late coming at schools, and then more gender-based violence. Ideas on needs assessment and then situation analysis.
All right.
So yes, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, OC. Ntate Paseka, who and more child participation is another one, please.
We will know, Rona, it's compulsory in terms of the school structure and learner representative councils. Every school has to have that in terms of all the policy formulation. But secondly, the junior commissioner program, I can tell you with GIZ, has become such a wonderful success for us. We are really having the webinars. It's going to end up being hosted by the president. Tomorrow, we have moved provinces. Then tomorrow, we are talking to Limpopo. We're expecting about 110 learners. And by the time there will be about 9 webinars. Yabu 10 is the one where the president will host these kids. They are talking at a wide range. Bullying is central, but they really talk about the children issues, the learner issues and their challenges. So we do have the BAMs and a number of kind of activities, but schooling is easy because it's based on core curricula. They are almost in a sort of imperative, if I can put it like that. Thank you very much.
No, thank you, Tate Paseka. This is just part of your work, child participation. Memo Haji, the child participation, OC?
Yeah, I already indicated the issue about the junior commissioners. We also have a youth desk. We also have youth crime prevention. And we also, within our school safety committees, the learners are represented in them.
Thank you, May. I'm just curious for a youth desk, has a child desk. When I carry youth in the country is from age 18 to 30 something, but children is 0 to 17. So how are youth, do we combine children with youth? I'm just curious because children issues are quite different from youth issues. May just quickly, please, if you can.
Yes, you are correct. But with the youth desk, where we have challenges with the learners, we engage with them. For an example, the universities, we use them to discuss issues with the learners with regard to challenges that we are having at schools. That's how I.
Thank you, Maratua. Mabatu, we saved the best for last, Agiri. Can you tell us about the Cyril Ramaphosa Foundation and child participation?
Thank you very much, Miranda. As Cyril Ramaphosa Foundation, we are centered and believe that the children and children's rights, in particular participation, is important in solutions that we bring about. If you look at the conceptualization of the Thari program itself, this program came from us engaging with children in schools who would report to our optometrists, who would report through our social programs, who would raise issues through our strategic planning sessions that we have with schools, because we also include learner representative councils in high schools. And we also believe that through parental support, because for smaller children, encouraging child participation from the home is quite important. So some of the activities that we do to support parents in assisting their children with learning outcomes, we have managed to make sure that child participation is one of the elements that is brought about to say that from the home we are able to, to have children be heard, children to suggest ways in which to be supported, and it goes both through social issues as well as education issues. And I think that is one of the areas that we would have seen through the pandemic, that a lot of children their voices needed to be heard, because during the COVID period, it affected us differently. And when you see that we also heard from the matriculants and the high school learners, that is how we managed to come up with a program of matric motivations, and included the South African Anxiety and Depression Association, particularly under the Multi-Stakeholder Forum at Diepsloot. So as Thari, we believe that, the children, learners are central to our program. And that is why we also emphasize that issues that affect mothers, we know that they affect children. And therefore having that and strengthening that relationship and breaking that cycle of vulnerability is quite important. Thank you.
Thank you, Mabatu. Colleagues, to the panelists, I want to say thank you. Thank you very much for wonderful presentations, informative, educative. This was my first experience, and I tell you, I'm so terrified doing all this. But I think because of your support and your presentations, the whole exercise was worth it. And it, to a very large extent, achieved what it needed to achieve, which was seek inputs. And we have gotten our inputs, and also there's better understanding amongst all of us participants on the Thari program. Attendees, thank you very much, participants, colleagues, for your inputs. And you also made it very easy, because we all struggled together. I think I struggled the most, but I think together we did very well. So thank you very much, and thank you to the Ramaphosa Foundation for enabling us this opportunity to make also our inputs in making sure that our country progressively does well for our children, because they are our future as a country, as a nation. So thank you very much. Goodbye, colleagues.